You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is episode 56, Homework.
Ooh, what could it mean? Well, we'll tell you.
What could it mean now?
So, this is another weird one. We're going with a lot of experimental stuff here that I think this was your idea. I'm almost positive. Yeah, I'm almost positive this was your idea. And I think you came at it from one perspective, and I think when you approached me about it, I tweaked it a little bit, and then we had gold. And I really think that this episode is going to be really cool because what the premise is we'll be picking a game for the other person, okay? And then that person has to pick a song from the soundtrack, and we put in a little brief description for each thing that we picked as to why you chose what you chose for that person. And that is pretty much the name of the game.
Yep, that's the name of the episode, really.
Homework. Yeah, homework. Yeah, they have to go and do their homework.
Yeah. I will say, this episode felt like less homework than our Continued Themes episode. I mean, I had a lot more fun with this one, I think mostly because the time restriction wasn't a thing. With the Continued Themes, I was very much trying to find tracks that were of a certain length or longer, and that really limited me because a lot of the tracks were just 10-second clips, and there's no way that was really gonna fly with us.
I know.
So the track that we came in on, obviously, Mike and I usually pick a song or a game and a song together for the intro, but because of the topic here, we split it up a little bit. Mike picked a game from a game that neither of us had played from a system that was somewhat semi-obscure. Yeah. And then I picked the track off of it just to find something that was cool. So, Mike, why don't you introduce the game and track?
Yeah, sure. So the game that we played a track from just now was Treasure of the Usas. And that came out on the MSX in 1987. The track name was Stage 4. That's the track that Justin picked. And it's by Kinuyo Yamashita. Now, supposedly, she was the primary composer, but there's special thanks in the credits given to several other composers who were regulars at that time on the sound team for Konami, such as Iku Mizutani, who's my favorite composer, Motoaki Furukawa, and Kazuhiko Uehara. We've talked about those other three on the episodes before, so we probably won't really mention too much of them, but Kinuyo Yamashita is the star of this game for sure. This game is a interesting little game. The reason I picked this is that the theme of the game is discovering treasure, which is exactly what we're kind of trying to do overall here. So we're trying to discover songs that we wouldn't normally look for, and this one honestly, I never heard of this game. I never heard of the soundtrack. I never heard of anything. And I specifically was like, let me look up something on the MSX. That's what I did. I specifically was like, I want to try to find something on the MSX computer system. So it's like an 8-bit computer system. Sequel to it was the MSX2. Lots and lots of Konami games on there, and one of which is Treasure of the USAS. It's only been ported once outside of the MSX, and that was on the Wii U. It got ported to the Wii U in Japan only. So if you crack your Wii U, you can download or put this ROM on there, which really, I mean, if you're going to do that, just download the emulator for the MSX and download Treasure of the USAS. So I believe there's a fan translation, so that's always good. But yeah, this is a cool little platform game. It's about these characters, Wit and Kless, and they are trying to find this broken jewel to try to find a discovery in their, because they're like academics, and they're trying to find this jewel so that way they can discover something lost to their academia. So it's an adventure action game, and there's 5 stages in it, but they each have different things that you can do with the characters. I'm trying to remember the specifics of each character. I think one character jumps higher and can attack in a different way, like with projectiles, and then the other is like, I think they have like an Indiana Jones kind of whip sort of thing. I haven't played this one personally, but it looks really cool. And I did learn that this game was pretty much the sole influence behind the La Mulana series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the La Mulana games took a lot of influence from Treasure of USAS.
That's good to know.
Yeah. The original version of La Mulana has references to the MSX. I think it's the PC version. I remember back in the day because our mutual friend Brian is a huge La Mulana fan, and he turned me on to the game, and I remember downloading it and playing it, and I remember like the book that you get in the game, because there's like this like special book. It's kind of like the book that Penny has in Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget, yeah.
Like that sort of thing. I may be totally wrong. It's been years since I played it, but it's modeled after an MSX computer. So it's pretty neat. Yeah.
I've been hearing about La Mulana 2 mostly recently because Purnell has been playing it from Rhythm and Pixels.
Yes. Yeah, both he and I got it at the same time because we got the La Mulana 1 and 2 Switch box set thing that came out. I'm really excited to play it, but at the same time, I'm just so overwhelmed with so many games right now that it's on the back burner. So I'm trying to chip away at Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
you haven't finished it yet?
I have not. I am on like chapter 6, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot going on. I can't hold that against you.
Yeah, I'm trying to move. So
yep.
As we're recording this, I'm in the middle of wrapping up things at my house. I'm going to be moving into a bigger house, and there's going to be lots of painting in my future. But yeah. Anyways, so Treasure of the USAS, really neat game. Kinya Yamashita is the lead composer on this one. She is mostly famous for, Castlevania, the original Castlevania, Akumajo, Dracula. She's famous for Mega Man X3. She did the soundtrack, the original soundtrack on that. She was with Konami for a really long time, and then she ended up for like a couple of years at least, and then she ended up leaving and going over to Natsume. And so she moved over with Iku Mizutani and Hiroyuki Iwatsuki and like all those composers. Not that Iwatsuki was with Konami, he wasn't, but all these composers, Natsume kind of got these lead composers who were just fantastic in their own right and kind of all put them together, and they made so many amazing soundtracks for the NES, the Super NES, the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, etc., Game Boy Advance. So there's a ton of really good stuff that they all worked on together. She also did the soundtrack for Ghost Sweeper Mikami, I believe, which is a really fun Super Famicom game. And I don't know, we'll do one more. She did both the Power Blade 1 and Power Blade 2 games on the NES.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah. Oh, I love those soundtracks. They're so good. So this song is, I mean, what did you think of this song?
Well, so I picked it because I liked it, obviously. There was a lot of really good stuff on that soundtrack, actually.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know, there's something about this song that stood out to me from the other ones. It sounded like sort of like a chiptune version of like a metal song. Like in my mind, I could hear like a lot of other stuff sort of building off of this and it being just like this really kind of hard song. I'm not sure exactly why my mind went that way, because listening to it a number of times, like there's other directions that you can kind of go with it. Yeah. But I don't know, the first time I heard it, I just kind of got this like metal vibe from it.
Interesting. I got more of a worldly vibe, like a world music, or like a really heavy atmosphere of like the Incan temples, like that sort of thing. Because that's really what they were going for on a visual aesthetic. And I think that that's what they were going for here musically as well. It just felt very like worldly. And I know that's kind of a weird way to describe it, but it felt, especially, I think there's a part in the song where there's like some, it almost sounds like steel drums or like toms. Let's not say steel drums. Let's say like kettle drums, like dong dong, like that sort of thing. And it kind of caught my ear, and it kind of made me perk up and go, wait, was that supposed to be like kettle drums or something like that, or some sort of like tribal drums? So I don't know. I felt like this one could be interpreted in multiple ways, but it's always interesting, the video game music journey, trying to I don't know, like genre. Are you
plugging Alex's show?
Sorry?
Are you plugging Alex's show?
No, I wasn't plugging. I just so happened to use the words VGM and Journey together. Shout out to Alex Messenger, who does VGM Journey. Great show. But yeah, no, I feel like it's an interesting path that you take when you listen to a song, because something that I hear where I try to genre place something will be something that you hear, and it'll be a totally different genre. So it's kind of
yeah. I don't think that happens very often, but I mean, this is a perfect example of when it does, and how interesting it is when it does that.
For sure, yeah. So let's get into your first pick, which is the game that I picked for you. So what is your first pick?
All right, so Mike picked for me Gradius 5. This came out in the PS2 in 2004. The track that I picked out of it is called High Speeds, also known as Stage 7, and it's composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto.
Ooh.
Welcome back. That was High Speed Stage 7 from Gradius 5. That came out on the PS2 in 2004 and was composed by Hitoshi Sakamoto.
That's right. I didn't even know that was composed by Hitoshi Sakamoto.
No?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, Hitoshi Sakamoto.
I picked this one because you always go for Gradius 3.
I do.
And I know it's your favorite game, but I wanted you to explore Gradius beyond 3. I wanted you to spread those wings.
Yeah, and I did, and it was good. This is a really good soundtrack, and I know that I haven't played this game. I have seen it. I don't think I've even seen it played. Like, I've seen gameplay stuff, but I've never been in the same room as this game as far as I remember. But after looking it up, I do want to get it because it looks like a lot of fun. Like, it looks very similar to what I remember having fun with in Gradius 3, but, you know, PS2 style. The graphics are a lot better. The music is a lot better. I don't know if I'd say it's a lot better. It's different. It's Red Book audio as opposed to, you know, the SNES sound chip.
Right.
But it's better in certain ways. Like, I love the music of Gradius 3, but this just has some really cool qualities to it. Like, I really love the breakbeat stuff going on.
Yeah. I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, the guitars are kind of funky. They actually remind me of some of the music from, like, Guilty Gear at certain times. Like, not the track overall, but some of the guitars remind me of, like, Guilty Gear, and I also get, like, a kind of like a Cowboy Bebop or Trigun type vibe, which makes sense because, you know, space.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking in terms of the time that it was made. I mean, I know we've talked about this before on the show, but breakbeat and that sort of, like, Chemical Brothers, Juno Reactor, like that whole like era of electronic music was so big and so popular that every game composer had this vibe, this like too cool for school kind of like, you know, extreme guitar wailing in the background while you've got these crazy break beats going. I was digging this track a lot, and I like that it kind of starts off a little bit more energetic at first, and there's more like things going on with the synths in the background, and those kind of take the lead, and then as the track kind of morphs into that break beat, it pops in with that guitar and it just sounds really good. So I was definitely enjoying this one, and I think it's a unique pick. I also think it's weird to hear Hitoshi Sakamoto do non-Genesis stuff, because I'm such an old school fan of Hitoshi Sakamoto's. Like, all the stuff that he was putting out on the Genesis was just like out of this world good, you know, between, you know, the arrangement for Midnight Resistance and Gauntlet 4.
Tactics Ogre.
Well, that's more newer school, but yeah.
1993, really?
Oh, Tactics Ogre came out in 93? Wow, I'm thinking of Ogre. I'm thinking of Ogre Battle, but yeah, that's more on the
as well.
That's more on the Super NES side of things. You know what? I'm thinking of Ogre Battle 64. That's what it is.
Yes, yeah. I was like, there's Ogre Battle on the PS1, there's Ogre Battle 64, there's Tactics Ogre. There's a lot of Ogre games.
Yeah, you're a lot of Ogre games. Nice. Sick burn, bro. So, yeah, no, he's done so much good for the Genesis. Veritex, that's another really, really good game soundtrack. So, and he's still working to this day. I mean, it's crazy how many soundtracks this guy has done and how legendary his music is.
Yeah. I mean, most recently, since we've already gone through the older part of his resume, his most recent contributions were in 2018. He did music composition and arrangement on Valkyria Chronicles 4, and he did sound production and direction on Dragon's Crown Pro.
Yep, too true. So, yeah, really cool stuff from Hitoshi Sakamoto. I don't own this one. I think I've played it once before. My buddy Wes just reviewed it on Nefarious West on his YouTube channel. And like a couple months ago, and I really dug the review, and the game since watching that has kind of been in the back of my head where I'm like, gotta get this game, and I haven't gotten it yet. So maybe this will finally, after listening to this song, will be the final push to get me to go purchase it.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna pick it up for PS2. As a fan of Gradius, like I own Gradius 1, I own Gradius 3. I'll probably grab this, and then at some point I need to figure out how to. I mean, aside from just ROMs, I need to figure out how I can grab Gradius 2 and 4.
Word. Yeah. I would definitely say for 2, because 2 is, I believe, on the Famicom.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. And it's really good. So definitely check that out too. All right. So now we're moving into my pick, or rather your pick for me. This is a game called Demnos. Not Die Mouse, Demnos. And it's a German game that came out for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color in 1998 and 1999, respectively. This is VGM 06, and it's by one of the best composers on the Game Boy, Alberto Jose Gonzalez. Guten Tag. That was Demnos. That came out in 1998 and 1999, respectively, on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. That track was BGM 06, and it was by Lord and Master of Game Boy music, Alberto Jose Gonzalez. This is a game I've never heard of, and I am so glad that you found it, because it's got a really amazing soundtrack with just no surprise. Why'd you pick this one?
Specifically, you and I, when we were talking about VGM, Alberto Jose Gonzalez comes up a lot, particularly if we're ever talking about the Game Boy and stuff. And I took a look back, and I don't think we've actually played anything by him on the entire show in all 56 episodes.
No, that's impossible. We've definitely played. If you know what, it could subconsciously be because I've really been trying to get him on our show. And I kind of put the feelers out every so often. There's a couple composers that we kind of talk to now and then that show interest and really like us and everything, but they are either too shy or their English isn't, they don't think their English is up to speed, that sort of thing. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, yo, could I maybe get somebody to I think he's Spanish. He's either Spanish or Portuguese. I think he's Spanish. I'm like, can I get somebody who speaks Spanish who can maybe, help us out?
As like a translator?
I don't know. So I feel like I've been holding back on my love for Alberto Jose Gonzalez's work because it is really, really good. He's just such a great composer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no.
What do you think of this song?
I really enjoyed this one. I think you picked a really good one. The opening of this reminds me a lot of the music from Final Fantasy 1 on the NES. But particularly, but particularly like the opening sound has some similarities to like the Cornelia track, which is the first town that you encounter, and it gave me a lot of the like Final Fantasy feels. And then as we were listening in, like maybe about halfway into it, I recognized like the way that he was using arpeggios. Like I didn't process them as arpeggios at first, and then when I heard them, they just kind of exploded. Like it's almost like when
that kind of blew your mind.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. And like overall, I get kind of like a traveling vibe from this song. Like this feels kind of like, you know, we're on the road, going from one place to another.
I get a very somber vibe from it as well. Like if you put this out on the Master System, I think it would flourish. But you know, the lead, like dun 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 dun, like it's very towny. Town type music in an RPG, so I get that vibe. But yeah, I also get the walking journey as well. So interesting little track. There were a bunch of tracks off this that I really, really wanted to pick, but this one kind of won out in the end because, you know, I'm always the type who always picks like the super energetic stuff, and I wanted to, you know, show off something that was a little bit more somber. So I enjoyed this quite a bit.
It's nice. Yeah, and that was the other half of why I picked this game was we talk about Alberto Jose Gonzalez, and I just wanted to give you something that was a little bit off the beaten path because I think we usually talk about his like Looney Tunes related games, and
yeah, Looney Tunes, Turok, his Turok Game Boy games are really good for the soundtracks. The games are, they're okay. Some of them are a lot better than the earlier ones. Like 3 and Rage Wars are really, really fun, but like 2 is and 1 is
yeah.
So
I would also like
those are my official ratings.
I would also like to clarify we have played Alberto Jose Gonzalez before. One song on the Game Boy episode with Nico, we played a track from Turok Battle of the Bionosaurs.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. So and that was I think his pick too.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, I'm almost positive that was his pick. Yeah. And I think it was one of those things where it was like Nico's coming on the show, he's gonna play Alberto. So I was like, I'm gonna hold off.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I really do think subconsciously I've been holding off on picking him, but I don't know or don't think that the interview will happen anytime soon. So, you know, maybe I'll start picking a little bit more going forward.
Yeah, we got to get him out there.
Yeah. Demnos is an action game / puzzle game. It's based on a German kids show. The German kids show is called Die Sendung mit der Maus. Sorry, I had to use my best Rammstein to say it.
And what does that translate to, Mike?
The show with the mouse.
Very specific. Thank you, Germany.
Yes. Die Sendung mit der Maus. I'm waiting for the guitars to come in. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Some warbly keys, singing some sick drums. Anyways, yeah, so this game, you play as a mouse and an elephant, and you're searching for a duck who has disappeared. It's kind of an isometric style, and both the elephant and the mouse have to reach the exit by using their different abilities. The elephant is able to push heavy objects, and the mouse can be a mouse and be small. Small. Can be small. So there's like 150 puzzles in 5 different worlds. It's pretty wacky. It's very colorful, but the colors are very like bright, but there's not a lot going on. Like the backgrounds are like the shrubbery and everything, and like the levels are pretty detailed, but the characters are kind of meh with the detail, and the background, like it's like blue skies, you know, throughout most of the game. So it's a very happy, cheery kind of kids game. So
yeah, I feel like there's a big difference between the Game Boy and Game Boy Color versions. Not that they look very different, but just the addition of color makes such a difference on this game.
Oh, for sure.
Like it looks good on the Game Boy. But it just like when you see it in color, you're like, wow, I didn't really. What's the name of that movie? Pleasantville. It's a very Pleasantville moment.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just like worlds of difference. There's other levels too that you can go in. Like there's indoor levels where there's like desks and there's like what looks to be like a kitchen and some woodland areas and whatnot. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's all in German, so as far as the actual like script or the introduction, but the gameplay itself, I think you'd be able to play the game without having to worry about not understanding.
Yeah, I mean there is a language option. Yeah, you can put it in German, French, English, or Spanish.
Oh snap! English, cool. I'll have to check this out. It's I mean, like the music is really good. The rest of the tracks are great, but it was really tough picking just one.
Nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, so what did I pick for you this time around?
All right, so the next game is going to be one that I had never heard of. It's called Albert Odyssey, Legend of Eldien. Is it Eldine or Eldian?
Eldine. I think it's Eldine,
okay.
But...
Yeah. Albert Odyssey, Legend of Eldine. This came out on the Sega Saturn in 1996. The track I chose is called Another Lone, with a question mark at the end, and it was composed by Naoki Kodaka. Hey, that was Another Lone from Albert Odyssey, Legend of Eldine, and that was the Sega Saturn 1996 release by Naoki Kodaka.
Indeed. Yeah, this is one of his last games.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. But I'll let you fill in the blanks as far as that goes. But you never heard of this one, huh?
No, Albert Odyssey. I mean, I know the name Albert. That was the name of my father-in-law.
Okay. It's funny because I really thought you knew of this one because so Justin and I have a bunch of shared history friends. One of his best friends, this girl Heather, and I, who actually Heather was, I think, voiced somebody in one of our. She's voiced
a few. She's voiced a few characters for us.
Yes, yeah. So Heather and I went to college together, and we were on the newspaper together. And so I, I think I was sort of, but not really, in their anime club. Like I would hang out in the school's anime club, like around them, but I don't think I was ever actually in their anime club. But like I came to know Heather and considered her a friend and everything, and she's a cool person, and she's super into anime and games and everything, and we really hit it off. So years later, when I met Justin through a different mutual friend, Heather kind of showed up at a party, and I was like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I know Justin. And she was like, I know Justin. We were like, okay, cool. So it was just one of those things. But anyway, the reason why I bring this up is a couple years ago, I think it was, she reached out to me like out of the blue and was like, she knew I was a VGM fan, and she was like, do you have the soundtrack to Albert Odyssey for the Saturn? And I was like, I don't, but I can get it for you. And she's like, oh my God, you'd be my hero. And I was like, all right, cool. So I sent it to her, and she was like, oh my God, thank you. So I naturally assumed that you two had a conversation about it, because I would have figured that maybe, because I don't think she's actually in any of our any of the podcast stuff that I've done privately in terms of the groups. So I think it was like one of those things where, or at least I thought it was one of those things where like she reached out to you privately and was like, do you know anybody who would have the soundtrack to Albert Odyssey? And you would be like, yeah, Mike does. So
I don't know, that might have been a thing that happened, but if so, it was literally that one instance and nothing else. So like either I pointed her to you, or she just knows that you do a lot of stuff around VGM and was just like, Mike might know about this.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, you ever have like little conversations with yourself about other people in your own head. Like, I just pictured like both of you kind of sitting down somewhere and be like, her being like, does Mike have the soundtrack to Albert Odyssey? And you being like, what's Albert Odyssey? And she's like, well, and she like rolls out the red carpet to like explain what Albert Odyssey is. And then you kind of stare at her blankly and then go, cool, I don't know, ask Mike. So that's like the entire conversation that I had in my head.
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
Keep that. That's probably way better than what actually happened, because I don't know.
Anyways, I picked this for you because I was curious on your thoughts on this one, and it'll be interesting to dive into Sunsoft and Naoki Kodaka post third and fourth generations. So this is a RPG that came out for the Saturn by Sunsoft. It was originally it did come out on the Super NES, and then it was ported to the Saturn, and they like revamped it and changed it and stuff. And it's a strategy game, and it's a a JRPG, and it kind of got mixed reviews, but it is a super duper expensive game. You take on the role of a character named Pike, who is a teenager, and his family was murdered by monsters while he was still a baby. So he was raised by these harpies, these like winged people, like winged human people. And then 10 years later, his adopted sister, is turned to stone by a evil, wizard or warlock or whatever. The typical story of gathering up heroes to try to find a cure for the stone thing, which is, by the way, I'm pretty sure the entire plot of Star Ocean, where like everyone's turning to stone, and then like the first Star Ocean game, and so like the first characters that you encounter, they're like, we gotta find a cure, and then they go to space. So that doesn't happen here. They have to revive a god, this ancient god by the name of Vlag.
So they stay terrestrial. Okay.
Yeah. Or they discover a plot by a group of evil magicians to turn the world's races against each other and revive Vlog. So Vlog is like the Lavos of the game. So, yep, pretty wacky stuff. I've not really played this one. I do own it on the Saturn. If you, this is a Working Designs published game, so that means there's glossy print everywhere and all kinds of crazy stuff on the packaging. What do you think of this track?
I really liked it. So this was definitely one of the shorter tracks from the game, but the reason that I picked this one is just immediately like leaped out at me as soon as I heard it. It reminds me of something from Sherlock Holmes, and I don't know if that's the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, the Benedict Cumberbatch BBC Sherlock Holmes, probably both, I would say, to be completely honest.
Mixture of both.
Yeah, but it just the what the heck is that? The instrument. It's not a shamisen.
It is. It's a shamisen.
It probably is, knowing us. But yeah, I don't know. It's just so reminiscent of the music from those movies and that BBC series that I just got stuck on it. And there's probably other stuff that I could have pulled from this that would have been longer and more intricate, but I really enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes theming.
Cool. So this composer, Naoki Kodaka, he's the Sunsoft guy. He is the DAT Sunsoft bass guy.
He's that guy. Yeah, he started with doing music in Dead Zone in 1986, and then went on to do all these other great games. Spy Hunter in 1987, he was uncredited for that. Platoon in 1988, I think we talked about that somewhat recently. On
the 80s episode, the 80s
that's
license in the 80s.
Yep, exactly. So, Blaster Master in 1988, Batman the video game in 1989, Gremlins 2, the new batch in 1990, Batman Return of the Joker in 91, and the last game that they are credited for, and this is because of he did Blaster Master, he's credited in Blaster Master 0 in 2017 because of the original music.
Yep. And you can't forget Journey to Silius.
No,
I mean,
that's
Fester's Quest.
There's so many. Euphoria the Saga. Like, I just don't want to read the entire resume.
Sure, for sure.
But just so many good games. Check out everything by Naoki Kodaka.
Definitely. This was his last official brand new game in the sense that, new music that he was credited for was this game.
Yeah, because the two things after that are the Abobo's Big Adventure and Blaster Master. So yeah.
Yeah. He ended up becoming a professor or a teacher at a music college, or he's teaching music somewhere at a Japanese college. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I was worried that this was his last game because he passed away. So that's
no. Yeah, no, he's still alive and kicking. It's just he doesn't do anything with video games anymore. I'm sure that he's got students coming up to him right and left being like, you did Blaster Master, you did Fester's Quest, and he's like, how do you know what those games are? So what we got next is a game that you picked for me, and I'll be honest, I've never played this one. I've heard of it, I know of it, but it was always one of those games that I was like, really? It doesn't seem like it's a game for me. But it's called Destroy All Humans, and the track is called Beyond the Stars. That's the song that I picked, and it's a soundtrack composed by Gary Scheinman.
Have you ever gazed up into the night sky and wondered at the possibility of life on other planets? What marvelous beings might exist out there when we are first contacted by our brothers from beyond the stars? Beyond the stars. Beyond the stars.
Oh man, welcome back to XVGM Radio. Or should I say, welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Destroy All Humans, the PS2 and Xbox game that came out in 2005. That was Beyond the Stars, and it was by Gary Scheinman.
More at 11.
Yeah, that mid-Atlantic or transatlantic accent.
Transatlantic, yep.
That was awesome. That was so So
that was a really
good.
good track. I'm so glad you picked that one. It's got this really cool like trip hop vibe. Trip hop isn't a genre that I listen to often, but the little bit that I do listen to, I really enjoy, and I feel like this fits right in with a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree. And it also has a little bit of industrial vibes too, especially using the words as kind of like a percussion instrument, like the
Like
stars,
rhythm. Yep.
stars. Yeah, with that fading of that, and it just stays and persists, and it becomes this like beat that you kind of bob and weave to while you're listening to it. This is just such a groovy, fun song. So I get a lot out of it. I get like almost like a industrial, a little bit of groove. Like this was just perfect. Just really blown away at this song. Pretty much this soundtrack made me want to play the game.
Yeah,
For sure.
and so I'm surprised that you haven't that you've never touched this. The reason that I picked this, not anything really major. This game itself, I know it has a really fun soundtrack, and I'm also just sort of interested to see, for one, what you pick, or which we saw, and just your thoughts on the series, because I thought you had played the series, so I'm guessing you don't really have any thoughts on the series.
No, I've never played it. It's always been one of those things where I was like, all right, it's kind of like a Mars Attack sort of thing, that whole like Cold War era alien invasion movies, even stuff earlier like This Island Earth can be yours if the price is right. Yes, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like this this game was a send up of that whole like genre of B movie alien invasion type stuff, and it's also kind of like I don't know if I'd call it a GTA clone, because I don't think it quite is, but it reminds me a lot of sort of GTA. I would say more Saints Row and Crackdown, because of how some of the stuff works. Saints Row, I make the connection, I think, probably because of what happens later on in the series.
Oh, right.
But also the way that it doesn't really take itself very seriously. Things can just get really loopy and really silly. But I mean, you're in this game, you're playing as an alien named Cryptosporidium 137. All of the aliens are references to like viruses or bacteria or parasites and stuff like that. And you are like in the first game, you're on Earth because Cryptosporidium 136, your predecessor, crashed and was captured in Roswell, so you're trying to get him back and clear all evidence and everything. And along the way, you mess with a lot of people. But the main character is voiced by the guy who does Zim from Invader Zim. So,
oh my God, are you for real?
Well, it's either the
I have to play
it's either
this
the
game.
main guy or the secondary guy, but it might actually be Orthopox, but I haven't played it in so long. I do know that one of the prominent voices is Zim, and it's totally Zim's voice too.
Oh my God, I love Invader Zim. Oh, I need this game like now. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I mean, the GTA style stuff, like, there's missions and whatnot. Sometimes you have to like go find people. You have different powers, different weapons that you can find or that are on your ship. Like you can mind control people and make people do things. You can get in your saucer and fly around and blow stuff up. It's
oh my
crazy.
God, this sounds so good. I love those types of games. I love games that don't take themselves seriously. Like, just really goofy, fun, stupid fun. Like, that is my jam right there. Anything that, like, there's so many games, modern games that come out, and nothing against them. I know everybody's got their fans, but, like, Last of Us and like all these games that are like, they make you want to think about stuff and they make you want to reflect on your own life. And I'm like, I just want to be a wacky alien blowing stuff up.
Especially right now. I mean, in the middle of a quarantine with everything else going on, that just, makes me feel like things aren't in a good place, and like I want to play something that doesn't make me also feel like things are in a bad place. Like, I want to play something silly or something just fun. I don't want to play a game and be like, wow, the world sucks, and this game makes me think that No, I totally
100% agree. This composer I've never heard of before. Gary Scheinman, I believe is how you pronounce his name. It's
Schymman.
Schymman, yeah. So he started off with Voyeur in 1993 and then did the sequel 3 years later. And he didn't really do much until Destroy All Humans came out in 2005, where he was the composer on that. So I guess he also jumped around and did some of the other Destroy All Humans games, because I guess there's been a few. But I don't see him doing the soundtrack on the remastered version of the game. So I don't know if they scrapped the soundtrack or what, but I need to find out before I buy the game because I need the soundtrack for sure. So.
I really enjoyed the audio samples and everything too. Just like this is like I call him a quote unquote crazy guy. Just like he's the guy talking about aliens in 1959.
Yeah.
That's also when the game is set as 1959. That whole like Roswell area type of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, just that the transatlantic aliens are real and we wanna befriend them. And I'm pretty sure this is this whole. All the audio samples are taken from a scene in the game.
All the women are named Barbara. Barbara, go get me that thing, will you?
Yes.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And all the men are named either Charles or Stephen. Has to be Stephen, not Steve. Stephen.
And Charles is sometimes called Chaz.
Yeah, Chaz. Hey, Chaz, how's it going today? Oh, Barbara, it's going swell. How about you? You know, that sort of thing. I could probably have an entire Mid-Atlantic conversation with myself, just like, top of the morning to you know.
Good stuff.
And I also wanted to mention Gary Scheinman also did the soundtracks for some really popular games like BioShock, BioShock 2, BioShock Infinite. So he is a big name in modern video game music. So yeah, he's done tons of stuff going forward. So it's neat. He kind of like made these 2 game soundtracks and then was like, yo, peace, I'm going to go do something else. Came back to destroy all humans, and then from there has just been killing it ever since with some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of like really important period pieces in video game history.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the BioShock series and whatnot. Good stuff.
Yeah. So you may be wondering, you're sitting here and you're going, now they haven't gotten a call in a while. Well, we gave Janine the night off, just so you guys know. And the reason for that is, this was our homework assignment. So we didn't want somebody, turn the phone lines off. We gave Janine the night off. We're on autopilot. So
She sent it home with a big old box of Triscuits.
Yes. Yeah. Delicious Triscuits. I bet she's eating the cracked pepper and olive oil ones because those are the best.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into your next pick for me, which is a game that I've heard you talk about, or a series rather that I've heard you talk about a lot at length in different podcasts, at parties, and despite all that, I've
in my sleep.
Oh yeah, that one time we went to the convention.
No, that one time we went to the convention, or that one time that you snuck into my house and like listened to me talk about it.
That too.
While I was sleeping.
But yeah, and despite all that, I still don't think I've ever seen any gameplay of any of these. But so this is Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, and this came out on the PS Vita originally in 2016, but also on the PS4 in 2017, and the Switch and PC in 2018. And the track is called Smash Up, and it was composed by Hayato Sonata, Takehiro Unisuga, Yukihiro Jindo, and Mitsuo Singa.
This Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, get ready to turn on your television and take it easy on the BCC's latest hit action sitcom based on the Ease video game franchise. Take it easy.
Well, Adol, we finally made it to this random island that some fortune teller told us about. What do you say your old pal Dogie here grabs us some victuals, eh? You gotta be starving. Oh yeah, I forgot. You never talk.
But the boys end up finding trouble on their quest for yummies.
Halt, seafarers! My name's Reginald, and I'm here to fight you because I hate you, even though, we just met.
Boy, who writes this stuff? Am I right? Looks like you need to taste my fists and Adol's blade.
But before the duo and bad guy fight for the flakiest of reasons, a questionably young and vulnerable girl appears.
Wait! Before you fight each other, you must help me save my sister from the mountains of perilous caverns, or something.
Boy, that sounds dangerous, but moves the plot along. Want to have a wacky adventure, Adol? He's in.
Are you sure?
Totally. It's in his contract as a hero.
Oh, thank you so much, sirs.
Hey, no sweat, Miss Girl Lady. Now, before we go, let's find some grub and take it easy.
But what about me?
Sounds like you need to take it easy.
I can't stay mad at you boys for nonsensical reasons. What a bunch of lovable characters.
Catch all the excitement at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on the BCC network. And right after that, stick around for the heart-pounding, nail-biting, drama-infused moments that will make you question your life decisions. The reality hit TV show, Real Housewives of Wall Market, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Ease 8 Lacrimosa of Zool.
What?
There is no Dana, only Zool.
Oh, you got me.
I did. So, Ease 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, which came out in the PS Vita in 2016, PS4 in 2018, and the Switch and PC in 2018. The track was called Smash Up, and it was composed by Hayato Sonada, Takehiro Unisuga, Yukihiro Jindo, and Mitsuo Singa.
Yeah, man. So good. So energetic. This takes place during, boss fights.
Yeah, no, this definitely felt like a fighting track. I was going to guess it was a boss fight, just based on the energy and everything else. But yeah, no, very, very blatantly fighting music. And man, I was saying this before we came back, but I was getting some serious. At first, it was just kind of Final Fantasy X vibes, because Final Fantasy X had a pretty rock-based soundtrack.
Yeah.
But there are a number of pieces of this that actually call back, to me anyway, to Otherworld, which is a Final Fantasy X track, but specifically the Black Mages version of it. So Nobuo Uematsu's band, back from 2003, 4, whenever. And if you listen to their version of Otherworld and then listen to this, they're not the same song by any means, but there are a lot of similarities. And this, I think that's a big credit to this track and just how much it rocks.
It's interesting that you haven't played this because you should have, and how dare you?
I mean, my list of stuff that I need to play is about as long as stuff that I need to watch, and I'm never going to get to all of it.
So I started off with Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys, on the Super NES. That was the first experience I had with an Ys game. And I really liked it, but it was really difficult, so brutally difficult, but I loved the music. And I didn't really pick the series back up until Ark of Napishtim, and that's just because the series stayed in Japan for the future releases for Ys 4 and 5. So 6 came out on PS2, and it did get brought over to North America, and I played through a little bit of it. I remember picking it up pretty cheap used, and I liked it. And so I kind of kept my eye on the series ever since then. And this was the first Ys game that I bought at launch. I got the PS4 like crazy collector's limited edition or whatever, and it's a really cool game. We would always joke around about how the music was so much like they put all the budget into the music, and the visuals and the characters and the animations and stuff were not as important, and that the music had to be like top tier. So Ys has always been kind of known as this franchise that has this incredible music, and this is obviously no different, with this really hyper-energetic guitar-driven piece that kind of ends up becoming this techno thing towards the end, this like electro thing.
Yeah, that's actually something that I wanted to touch on as well. It's rocking. It's got this awesome like metal sound. What I wrote down is, and then they called the techno crowd, but only for a moment. And then towards the end, it actually comes back, like just like those electronic beats that are just in there. I don't know that I've ever heard anything quite like that before. I probably have and just don't remember. But like it kicked it up so much. I didn't expect it. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. Yeah. And it added so much like depth to it. I was like, why don't we do this for all metal?
Yeah. No, it's a really good soundtrack. The whole soundtrack is great. They redid the entire English dub. There were a lot of people who were super angry that the dub wasn't accurate, and there was a lot more like there was a character in there who was like had a lot of farty jokes and like that sort of stuff, and so it wasn't exact and accurate. There was a different company that was working on it. It was NIS instead of Xseed. Xseed Games kind of took over the franchise for a while. Everyone was really, really happy, from what I understand, about the level of detail that they would put into Falcom's games for the Ys series. And so when NIS took over, a lot of people were really skeptical, and they were kind of proven right in the sense that NIS released this kind of botched version of the game. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really notice it on a personal level. It didn't really bother me, but I wanted to go back and see what the differences were. So I was waiting on the update to come through, and it finally came through, and I think what ended up happening was I upgraded my hard drive on my PlayStation 4, so I never went back and like reinstalled the game. I reinstalled the DLC, but I never reinstalled the game to play it. I'll eventually do it and play it, but yeah, that's the name of the game. So Ys 9 is coming out. It's been announced. I think it's either out or going to be out very soon in Japan, and Ys 9 is coming to America next year in 2021.
Oh, nice.
So I would definitely recommend you start with this one. It's a good jump-on point for the franchise where you can kind of get a hang of the action RPG vibes in this game. You could hear the amazing music. You could play the game. The cast members are always different except for Adol and Dogi.
Okay, so they're in every game.
Yep, they are. Those two are in every game. I believe Dogi is in every game. I know Adol is definitely in every game.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So these composers, real quick, Hayato Sanada started off with Brandish 4 in 1998, and then did some Ys stuff, and then Legend of Heroes. They did some Legend of Heroes games as well. Cold Steel.
Oh, Trails of Cold Steel, yeah.
Yeah, Cold Steel 2, Cold Steel 3, and Trails in the Sky 3rd in 2017. What about the rest of the composers?
So Takahiro Unisuga started out doing music and sounds on Xanadu Next in 2005, and then jumped into Ys for Ys Origin, 1 and 2 Chronicles, Oath of the Felghana, Memories of Salsetta. They also worked on the Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky, and Trails of Cold Steel series, along with Mr. Sonoda. Yukihiro Jindo started out with Legends of Heroes Trails in the Sky in 2004, doing music and composition. Jumped over to Ys The Oath in Felghana and Origin in 2005 and 2006, as well as some of the same games that I mentioned for Mr. Unisuga. Most recently, they were composer on Soul Calibur 6 in 2018.
Yes.
And then finally, we have Mitsuo Singa, who started out with this in 2017, went on to do Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus in 2017, and then was on the sound team for Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 in 2017.
Yeah, a lot of the guys are newer sound guys for the most part. None of the old Eve's Falcom sound team is really around. A lot of them are just became free agents and moved on to other things. Oath and Felgana, it's worth noting, is a remake of Wanderers from Eve's, which is Eve's 3. So, yeah, I picked this one because I'm pretty sure that you weren't familiar with it, and I thought it was a great introduction to it, at least musically, as far as the franchise goes. So, what do you think? You're going to pick this one up after hearing it?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look. I do have some free time for games, so I'll have to see where and how I can get this.
Word. All right, we're moving to a game that you picked for me. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan. This is Tasmania. It came out on the Super NES in 1992. This track is Kiwi Roadside, and it's by Mitchell Stein. Hey, welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Tasmania, and that came out in the Super NES in 1992. The track was Kiwi Roadside, and it was by Mitchell Stein. I gotta ask, Justin, why did you pick this?
So, folks will understand more after the next track that we play, and I talk about the goings-on there. But there were a number of reasons. I wanted to give you something that was more of a struggle than anything else, because you are really good at finding good tracks. Like, I can't remember anything that I was just like, oh, that sucks. Like, you're really good at finding good stuff, and even if it's not something that I'm like totally into, it's still something that I can at least groove to. So I wanted to give you something and see what you would find out of it. And admittedly, this was probably a little bit more difficult than it should have been, because I don't know that there's really anything particularly great on the soundtrack. I do own this game. The game itself is fun, but as folks can probably attest after hearing that, the music on it is not anything that keeps you playing the game. There's also a bit where, like, I have a penchant for some of these Looney Tunes type games, like, you know, Buster Bust Loose, Daffy and the Marvin Missions. We haven't played on this show.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I've played a single Taz game that I liked, though I did play a track from that Taz Wanted game.
Yes.
And that was pretty good. That song that I picked was good. So maybe Taz games got better after the, 16-bit era.
That's possible. I mean, absolutely. I will say some of the things that I pulled out of this were that the drums kind of remind me of Donkey Kong Country drums in some of the levels. Like, they're very, like, DKC bongos. And the bass line, aside from being sort of the only thing in the track, I found the bass line to be kind of funky. And if there was more to it, I could really groove to it. Unfortunately, because it's so minimalist, there wasn't a whole lot of grooving going on.
This sounds like a Donkey Kong Country track got thrown up on by like polka music. Because it's got that polka beat. I don't know. I didn't know Super NES could twerp that hard. Let me put it that way.
That's fair. That's fair. I apologize to both you and our listeners.
Oh, my ears. Yeah, I was not feeling it. It was not a good track. And no, sir, I don't like it.
That's fair. That's fair.
This was the most serviceable track I could find, which is kind of like saying this had the least amount of bird poop on it. So, this picnic bench had the least amount of bird poop on it.
This Triscuit had the least amount of bird poop on it.
Oh.
Let's talk about Michael Stein, and we'll just move on.
Mitchell Stein did only 4 games: Tasmania in '92, Clay Fighter in 1993, Dominus in '94, and Clay Fighter Tournament Edition in '94. And then they kind of, pieced out. This is based on the Tasmania cartoon, but there were multiple versions of this game that came out, all published and developed by different companies. The Super NES version was developed by Visual Concepts and published by Sunsoft. So the game is basically just an action platformer where you play as Taz and he's searching for a giant egg. Really, that's all you need to know. I've not played this one. I would not play this one, even if the game was good. The music is not, so I would probably not play it.
Oh yeah, no, you would totally be turned off by this. It's a very odd game too, because it's the perspective is behind Taz, and it's almost like an F-Zero type game. Like you have a track and a road, and you're more or less like running to get to the eggs and whatever else.
That's super weird.
Yeah, it's a very, very odd game. I mostly own it because I like Taz, and it's an interesting game. Like, it's fun for a little while. I never really play it for more than, I guess, a little while. I can't even tell you how many minutes. It's entertaining, but it loses its entertainment value relatively quickly because it doesn't control very well.
Taz and Escape from Mars was sort of a sequel or a pseudo-sequel. That's more of a, side-scrolling action game where you play as Taz again in his Escape from Mars. That one's not good. A mutual friend of ours, our buddy Eric, told me and suckered me into getting this game. He was like, oh, you got to get Taz Escape from Mars, because it was just when I got a Genesis, and he is such a huge Genesis fan. He was like, oh, you got to get Taz Escape from Mars. That's such a good game. And I bought it, and I was like, oh, you're that kind of person? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you would have to know Eric to know.
Either way, speaking of the worst, so part of the reason that I picked out Tasmania for you is because of one of the games you picked out for me, and that's coming up next. So this is Mega Man X7.
You poor soul.
Yeah, this came out on the PS2 in 2003. I chose Underground, the tunnel base stage, and this was composed by Yuko Komiyama, Shinya Okada, Seiko Kobuchi, Naoto Tanaka, Makoto Asai, Teruo Konishi, Suichi Mizuhata, Noriyuki Iwadare, and Takuya Miyawaki. Hey, thank you for sticking with us through all of that. That was actually a pretty good song from a pretty bad game. Mega Man X7 came out on the PS2 in 2003. That was Underground Tunnel Base Stage by a bunch of people that we'll talk about later because it's too many names.
Yeah, it's such a shame that this song is in this game because the song is great. I really dig this song that you picked.
Yeah. Admittedly, as I was saying just before we kind of came back, this game was terrible, but the soundtrack was not terrible. There's a handful of songs that I don't care for, but for the most part, it was a really good soundtrack. In this track in particular, like I really love the bass. I called it full body bass, and I mean you can take that however you want, but it was it just like so rich and deep in that sound, and I really liked it. The song itself reminds me, I feel like it's reminiscent of the music from X4. Maybe it's reminiscent of X5 and 6 as well, but like X4 is what I have the most nostalgia for. But it reminds me a little bit of that, but like kicked up a notch. Like the music in X4 wasn't this like thumping or anything else. It was good, but there was so much more to the sound here.
Yeah, it had a real funk vibe with that bass. It was just like really funky. Yeah, I was definitely bobbing my head to this one, and I was enjoying it quite a bit. And it's such a shame because the game is so bad. This is the worst Mega Man game I've ever played.
Last episode, we talked about a lot of Mega Man stuff, and we ranked our games, and the lowest ranked game for me, I believe, was Mega Man 7. And it's funny because I said before we started recording today, when I first saw this, it was part of the reason that I gave you Taz, is I kept seeing it as Mega Man 7 every time I was looking at it. And then eventually my brain processed the X, and I was just like, oh, man, really? Like, I think it's the only game that I like less than Mega Man 7.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I did. I just, I don't know. I wanted to see if you could actually salvage a good song out of a garbage game, and you did.
And I did.
Bravo for you. So I guess we should probably explain why we're dumping on this game so badly.
I mean, do we need to? Is it not well known throughout the world?
I mean,
no, I know. The biggest issue that I had with this game, outside of everything else, were the controls. Like when it first came out, my friend got it. So there were 3 people, including myself, that were big Mega Man fans. Mega Man X4, absolute favorite. Mega Man X5 was a lot of fun. Mega Man X6 was pretty good. I thought the weird changing up how they were naming things was a little bit odd, but overall I didn't think it was bad. And then Mega Man X7 came out, and I didn't get it first, and my buddy did, and I was watching him play it, and I thought it was really neat how they were trying to introduce like some of the 3D aspects. Like instead of this just being a straight left side of the screen to the right side of the screen platformer, now there were like these 3D elements, and sometimes like the screen would turn. Unfortunately, when we actually got to those parts in the game, it just completely screwed us over. Like the controls were so terrible. It was hard to get the characters to do what we wanted to do, and we died so frequently, not because we were bad at the game. Well, maybe we're bad at the game because we couldn't control it, but when your controls are bad, your game is bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. Control-wise, it was pretty bad. Personally, I had more hatred of the character Axel than anything. So whenever I think of X7, I think of Axel, and then I think of the bad controls, and I'm just like, yo, I hate you, Axel. You're like the Kiddy Kong of Mega Man games.
See, I didn't mind Axel as much. I thought he was a little annoying, but for the most part, like I was just like the writing. I wasn't big on the writing, but I did like the fact that they were trying to introduce a new character and a new mechanic. Like, you had X for the longest time, and then they let you play 0 and 3, and then they let you really play 0 and 4. I thought it was like that was a really cool way to add a new gameplay mechanic. And then for this, with Axel being like this just humanoid Reploid with a gun, but he could transform into the Mavericks whose powers that you're stealing, I thought that was really nifty, because it's one of the things that I always kind of wanted to do. Is like I really liked Magma Dragoon from X4, and I always wanted to play as Magma Dragoon, but it isn't to be. But with Axel, like you can actually play as temporarily the Mavericks, so I thought that was really neat.
Nope, dumb, stupid, hate him, hate Axel.
Okay.
Fiery passion. It's just, I found him so annoying. Ugh, he's the worst. I hated everything about Axel. Anyways, so
these composers, let's do one each. So Yuko Komiyama, I'm gonna call out Monster Hunter World in 2018. They were the composer on that. I really enjoyed that game, so good job. Shinya Okada, Zack and Wiki, Quest for Barbaros Treasure in 2007.
Good stuff.
I believe you turned me on to Zack and Wiki.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
a while ago.
So, yep.
Seiko Kobuchi, Mega Man X Command Mission in 2004. They were a sound composer on that. Axel was in that game too. That was the Mega Man X RPG.
Yeah. I'm not even joking. That is the only reason why I haven't played that game, because I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's like an RPG, like a JRPG, and it's got Mega Man X, and it's got Zero, and it's got all the other X characters. And then I'm like, oh, but it's got Axel.
Give it a try. If I remember correctly. Not that they changed Axel's character a ton, but I think they toned down his annoyingness in that.
Oh, good.
But so Naota Tanaka, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, they did sound. Makoto Asai with Grandia 2 in 2000. They did electric and acoustic guitar in that game. Teruo Konishi did SD Gundam G Generation Genesis in 2016. Shuichi Mizuhata did Beautiful Joe Red Hot Rumble in 2005. Noriyuki Iwadare did Too Many Things.
Yes.
In fact, they're credited on Ys 3, Wanderer from Ys in 1991. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
And then finally, Takuya Miyawaki. They did sound on Mega Man 4, 5, X5, and then X7.
Cool.
Yes. What do we got coming up next for you?
All right, so we're going with a game that I've never played, and that's no surprise because we've been picking a lot of games for each other that we've never played. This is Red Dead Redemption. This came out on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3 in 2010. This track that I picked is called Estancia, and it's by Bill Elm and Woody Jackson. Hey, welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Red Dead Redemption. This came out in 2010 on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. This track was called Estancia, and it was by Bill Elm and Woody Jackson. So I gotta wonder why you picked this one.
So, I mean, we've talked about it before. We both like Westerns, and as far as like Western type games or games with Western settings or whatever, this is my favorite. So I kind of figured this would be sort of an easy one for you. Don't you own Red Dead Redemption?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I do not.
You do own Red Dead Revolver, right? I know I've seen that in your collection.
I do.
So
Yes.
I made another assumption here, thinking that you have played Red Dead Redemption because of our shared enjoyment of Westerns. All that aside, the music from this game and the music on the soundtrack is fantastic. It is very Western. It is very appropriate. And I figured it would both be easy because the music's good and maybe a little difficult because I don't know how many tracks you enjoyed, but I figured there might be a few favorites for you in there.
Yeah, I enjoyed most of the stuff that I heard from the soundtrack, but the thing is, it all sounds like movie sound, like either actual music or actual Western movie soundtrack stuff.
Right. And I mean, it's all stuff that's composed for the game. In fact, the soundtrack has a number of tracks that were composed using instruments and stems from the game, but that weren't actually in the game. And this is one of those tracks. This track was actually used in a short movie by John Hillcoat that aired on Fox. It was a Red Dead Redemption short film, and this track was used in that. And it's on the game soundtrack, and it's not actually in the game.
Oh wow, that's super weird.
Yeah. I didn't realize it until much more recently. Otherwise, I would have said something because I know we usually try to play stuff that's from the game. But all that being said, this track was composed for the world or whatever.
Yeah, same instrumentation, same style, and whatnot. Yeah. I was digging it. It was cool, and I don't know if it made me want to play the game, but it made me want to watch a Western movie. Let me put it that way.
That's fair. And I mean, that's kind of what playing the game, that's one of the reasons that I really like these games, but I enjoy these games because playing them is sort of like watching Western. One of my favorite things to do is sort of just zone out on horseback and ride around the land.
I think that's one of the reasons why I never picked this one up, is because it felt too big to me. Whereas Red Dead Revolver had a much more arcade-like feeling to it with the cards. There was a huge emphasis on playing cards, like using playing cards as power-ups to your advantage. And I don't know if Red Dead Redemption continued that. I know both games were done by Rockstar, but Red Dead Revolver was published by Capcom.
Right, yep.
That was kind of the reason why I picked it up, because I was like, ooh, a Capcom Western? I was like, done. I didn't really know about Rockstar back then. I was just kind of like going with the Capcom flow, if you will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really dug Red Dead Revolver, and so I saw Red Dead Redemption and was like, oh, cool, they finally made a sequel. But it was more of a reboot with a new character, if I recall. I don't think that it was an actual sequel.
Yeah, I think they're related, but I don't remember if it was truly a reboot or if it was a sequel that focused on another character. I mean, the main character of Red Dead Redemption is John Marston, and the main character of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is actually a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, is a character that is not even mentioned or anything in Red Dead Redemption 1, which is one of the reasons that I want to get through this, is to find out, because you meet John Marston, he's part of the same gang that you're in. So I'm like, why was the character that I'm playing as now, why does he have nothing to do with anything in the first game? So there's that air of mystery there. But yeah, I mean, these games, they're also, referred to as Grand Theft Horse, Grand Theft Carriage. It's GTA in the Wild West. And it's crazy because I can never get into the GTA games, but for whatever reason, maybe it's just the setting. I really got into Grand Theft Horse. Grand Theft Horse.
That's funny. I never heard that before. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier with Destroy All Humans. But yeah, I don't know. This one looks super serious and detailed, and it kind of turns me off a little bit with how serious it looks. But at the same time, I know I'm going to be in for a good story because I've heard it's really good.
The story is fantastic. That's one of the things that I love the most about it. I will say it does take itself seriously for the most part. If you really get into a lot of the stuff, there are a number of things that they do that kind of back off from that. There's a lot of Western tropes that they try to subvert. There are some silly things that are in there that you can find if you're looking for them. But overall, the story itself is, it's called Red Dead Dead Redemption, because the story itself is supposed to be about this guy redeeming himself.
Right.
He used to be part of a gang. The whole story of this is you're basically hunting down old guys from your gang because the government has more or less pressured you into it. They're just like, hey, you can either rot in jail or you can help us find your old gang members and put them away. And so, you have a wife and a kid. Like, you left the gang, you left that life a long time ago, and you're just trying to live. And so you're like, whatever, like, pick up my gun, let's get going. I didn't like those guys much anyway.
Mm-hmm. So Bill Elm only did this game, and Woody Jackson has done a few games, mostly with Rockstar. So Red Dead Redemption 2010. He's credited for, quote-unquote, the local population. I don't know what that means, but I believe he's the main composer. He's also did L.A. Noire, the Complete Edition, in 2011, Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, and then Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018.
Nice.
So let's move on to my next pick for you.
Yes, last one for me. So you picked Power Quest, which is a Game Boy Color game that came out in 1998. The track that I chose is called 1995, and it was composed by Kumiko Fujiwara. Welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was my final track of the episode. The game was Power Quest, which came out in the Game Boy Color in 1998. The track was 1995, and it was composed by Kumiko Fujiwara.
That it was. You can't go wrong with this soundtrack. I've known about it and enjoyed the soundtrack for ages now, several years. And now it's your turn to discover it. So I kind of feel like it's one of the best Game Boy Color soundtracks out there. So that is why I picked it for you.
Thank you, because it was a lot of fun. It was kind of hard to pick a track from this one. There was a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed, and I kind of went back and forth on some of the stuff for a while. I think I picked this track yesterday. That's how long I was sitting on it. Thank you for showing me the soundtrack, because it's fantastic. But this track in particular was just so much fun. There's so many things. There's so much going on here. There's so much that I like about it. For one, like, this has my favorite type of like drums / snares. Just like the really crunchy.
Yeah.
On the bass. I really like those kind of drum sounds, like when they're on the NES or whatever else. I've talked about it probably to death in previous episodes, but it's just, I don't know, it's a sound that makes me happy. And then on top of that, you've got this really just driving bass line, the doo 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 going on, and just keeping everything going. And then you've got this melody that's just like out of this world, like it's soaring, and it just feels really well thought out. And I'm in love with this track.
Yeah, this is a good track, and it's a good soundtrack. This is one of my less favorite ones. I think the sustain on the note kind of kills it for me, where it's like, I feel like it goes on a little too long, like it kind of overstays its welcome. But, I mean, picking a bad song on this soundtrack is like, picking your favorite way to kill Axel in Mega Man X7. Like, there's no wrong way to do it. You just got to do it. So, I don't know. Yeah, this game's a weird one, and I think you would like it personally. I think this game is tailor-made for Justin. It is a role-playing game and a fighting game all in one. And it has a lot of RPG elements. You're fighting as like these model robots, and you're trying to like enter tournaments and like you're always trying to update your robot with new parts. So you walk around towns and you beat up, opponents, kind of like a Pokemon style in a way, where you use your robots to get, the opponents defeated. And then from that, you can win money to be able to buy new parts. That way you can enter more tournaments. So the actual fighting itself is more of a fighting game mode. And then, you're going around town talking to people, and the visuals are great. Really, really good, strong NES era style visuals on the Game Boy Color. And music's great. Controls are tight. I mean, just the whole thing. It's got the complete package. If there's any game on the Game Boy Color that's a hidden gem, it's this one right here.
Nice. Do you own this? Is this come out in America?
Yeah. This came out in America, yeah. It was published by Capcom in some regions. I believe it was also published by Sunsoft in other regions.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm taking a look at some of the screenshots, and I mean, for a Game Boy Color game, this looks really good. Considering the limited inputs and whatnot on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, I'm curious as to like how it actually mechanically plays. But it looks really good for a Game Boy Color fighting RPG or whatever.
It's interesting because the composer, Kumiko Fujiwara, this is the only game he's done audio on, from what I understand.
Oh.
All the other games that he's worked on for Capcom, at least, were all like, Zelda, Minish Cap, Mega Man Battle Network 6, Mega Man Star Force. So all those games, he's done like texture design, modeling, 3D modeling, animation, cinematic animators, artists. So how he got pulled into doing audio for this game, I have no idea, but this was clearly his in.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, what's interesting is that on Moby Games, this is the first thing, like the earliest thing on his profile is Power Quest 1998. The next thing after that is character design on Final Fantasy II in 2001 and Final Fantasy Origins in 2002. He was a designer. So like it's almost like he started with audio and with Power Quest, and with such a good soundtrack, like I'm curious as to what happened here. Like maybe he just didn't have a good time. Maybe like it may have come out well, but I would imagine it had to have been just not his bag, and he went on to do a whole bunch of really cool arts and graphics. I mean, he also did like some cinematic. He was a cinematic animator in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which came out in 2019, and that's a game that I own and have very much enjoyed. So like, awesome! Like you've done great music and great game design. So
yeah, it's pretty weird. It's very strange, but I did enjoy this game and this soundtrack. I have not beaten this one, but I started it, and just really I found the soundtrack first and picked up the game because I found the soundtrack and kind of went from there.
Fair enough.
So your last game for me is Solstice, the quest for the staff of Demnos. So I picked the title theme from the NES 1990 game, and it's by Tim Fallon. Thanks for joining us on our homework episode. That was Solstice, the quest for the staff of Demnos. That was title theme, and it was on the NES in 1990. And that track was by Lord Tim Fallon. Oh. I love this song, and there's so much that Tim does with this song that it consistently blows me away. I gotta say the beginning with that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, you're kind of like, all right, what am I getting myself into? And then when you get that explosion of the bass combined with the drums and the cymbals.
Yes.
And
I think I refer to that as like the smash cut. If you know what like a smash cut is in video, like this always feels like a smash cut for audio to me, because you've just got like that very flighty da 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 that you're talking about, and then just hits you in the face and over the head.
Yeah.
So good though.
So good. So good. And then the track is basically a Jethro Tull song. So
yeah, that's kind of fair.
Which is not a complaint at all, because I love me some Tull. So really, really solid work. And nice instrumentation too. Like the instrumentation on this is so good. Like you can hear the flutes. You can hear the cymbals. Those cymbal crashes with the white noise. Just like the way that he tuned that is just uncanny. Like nobody has on the NES, nobody has as good sounding cymbals as Tim Fallon, I would say.
I probably have to agree with that. Yeah. The comparing it to like Jethro Tull's albums is actually pretty relevant, because I wrote down towards the end it kind of feels more medieval. Like there's so much going on throughout a lot of the song that I'm just like lost in it. And then as it gets towards the end, there's just like almost like a Ren fair. Like you can hear, like you said, the flutes and everything else, and it's so well put together. I mean, there's no surprise considering it's Tim Fallon, but
oh, for sure. But I feel like he wrote this, and then they were like, great, we're going to put this in the game, but we're going to put it in as the title theme because it's kind of long, and, we want to kind of grab people as quick as we can. But I'll be honest, the rest of the music, it's okay. It's not bad music by any means. I mean, this is Tim Fallon we're talking about here. But I don't know. I don't feel the same connection that I felt with this track. Yeah,
a lot of the other stuff to me feels a lot more atmospheric. So in this game, surprisingly, it's one of my favorite NES games. It's not particularly easy, although if you have like a guide to get through it, kind of like if I'm playing Blaster Master. Well, no, if I'm playing Blaster Master, I don't need a guide. I need cheats. It's such a long game when there's no saving,
and that's so difficult. Yeah.
But this game, like even with the guide telling you where to go, like a lot of the things that you have to do are really tricky, and I never really felt like the controls were bad in this game. Like for an NES game, especially when I was a kid, this always felt like a really tight game. And I mean, going back even more recently, because I do still own this, it's not perfect by any means, but it still feels like it controls pretty well, which was really neat. But the music I always found the music in this game to be really just like spot on, because like you're going through this like castle and courtyard and whatever else, trying to find the staff of Demnos so that you can free, I think, the princess or your girlfriend.
Her name is Princess Eleanor, and you are trying to assemble the 6 pieces of the staff of Demnos to defeat Baron Morbius and rescue Eleanor.
Baron Morbius, that's the one.
Yes.
But yeah, so a lot of this music is, like I said, it's atmospheric. So like you're walking around, and in certain areas it feels really creepy, and in certain areas it feels differently creepy. A lot of the music is kind of creepy-ish.
Yeah, and that's, I think, I don't have a problem with creepy music, but I don't know. I just kind of felt like the title screen kind of blew its proverbial spot for the rest of the soundtrack, because it was so good, and the rest of the soundtrack's not bad, but it's just different. So it's like this weird feeling that you get because you want to keep playing the game, and you're like, yeah, I want to keep playing and I want to see what happens and everything. But at the same time, that title theme, bring that back,
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
So Tim Fallon, I don't think needs much introduction. Just on the NES alone, Silver Surfer and Pictionary. One of my favorites is Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge on the Super NES specifically. He did Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. He's done a ton of Commodore 64 games and Amiga games. Ghouls and Ghosts definitely comes to mind. He did the port of Ghouls and Ghosts, and the music is entirely different than any of the Capcom stuff. So all really cool stuff. I definitely dig Tim Follin's music. I think he's a musician first and a video game music composer second.
Yeah.
So now is the time of the episode where we pick our favorite tracks. So, Justin, what was your favorite song in this entire episode? My picks, your picks, everything.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to say the Destroy All Humans track, Beyond the Stars, is definitely way up there. The Power Quest track, 1995, is pretty high up there. I also think Mega Man X7, the Underground Tunnel Base Stage, is up there. I'm just trying to figure out which one of those three is really doing it for
You're
me.
going with Tasmania, right?
Yeah, no, ultimately, it's got to be Kiwi Roadside. No. I mean, even the Ease 8, the Smash Up one, just, like I said, it reminds me so much of Black Mages, and it's great. But I think the Beyond the Stars track from Destroy All Humans that you picked was actually the one that surprised me. Because like I know the music from that game. I haven't played it as much as my wife by any means, because she loves the series. But I don't remember this track from the game. So when I heard it, I was just like, this is awesome.
Yep, that's my pick too.
Oh, wow.
Destroy All Humans. It's so good. It just blew me away when I heard it, and I was like, what is this? I got to get this game. And then now that we talked about the game, I'm like, oh man, I got to go buy this game. So apparently, just as a quick little clarification, the game at the time of this recording is not out yet. It's supposedly coming out in either July or August on the PS4. They're remaking the entire game.
Yeah, you're talking about the reboot that they're doing. It's supposed to come out in July, like 27th, I think.
Yeah, and it is the first game remade, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
I've never said that about homework before. So, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Scott McElhone, Cam Worma, Chris Hart, Dan Lawton, Chris Murray, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Jordan and Anson Davis, Chris Myers, Llama Adam, Jeremy Rutz, Peter Panda, Ryan McPherson, Bedroth of the Very Good Music VGM podcast, Jason Super Jess Doss, Nick Davis, Matthew Hanola, Brad Austin, Muddle Madness, Mixmaster, and the Autistic Gamer 89. If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
And if you'd like what you've heard, please consider giving us a rating on iTunes and a review.
You can also join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at www.facebook.com/groups/XVGM Radio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks, or just talking about the podcast itself.
And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for both of those sites is @XVGM Radio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
So, next episode, Justin, we are diving deep into a game company, but also more specifically, the game company's sound team.
So, in episode 57, we're going to take a look at Taito, and specifically, we're going to dig into the music of Zuntata.
Yeah, so many good tracks. There's much more beyond the Ninja Warriors track Daddy Mulk, which I'm sure will get played, but there's tons and tons of hidden goodness in Zuntata. They are a really amazing sound team, and it'll be great to kind of look at their past and see what they've come up with.
Yes, excited.
So, for XVGM Radio, this is Mike.
And Justin.
Signing off. This is the worst Mega Man game I've ever played. I mean...
Agreed.
And I've played Mega Man 5. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, so many people are going to at you.
I know. Don't at me, bro.
Welcome back. That was High Speed Stage 7 from Gradius 5. It came out in the PS2 in 2004. That came out...
This picnic bench had the least amount of bird poop on
this
it.
Triscuit had the least amount of bird poop on it.
Oh, don't sully the good name of Triscuits, dear sir. If Janine was listening right now, she would flutter her way to the studio and suck the life out of you, I guess.
Probably.
Yeah.
I said I would never pick a game with this many composers again, and I held mostly true to it until you broke my streak.
Excellent.